Hi, I'm Andrea Stolpe, and welcome to Becoming a Songwriter. I made this course because I wanted something comprehensive that songwriters of all levels could use to dip into some of the more common techniques and then also some of the more uncommon techniques that I think songwriters working in the industry find really useful. I really wanted this course to be free as well, so anyone, no matter your circumstance, could benefit from the tools and strategies you find here. At the ends of the lessons are exercises that you can use to structure your time that you have available, whether it's a very short 10-minute period while you're waiting to pick up the kids from school, or a longer stretch when you have really time to sink into your writing. I've also created a PDF guide that I hope will help you to visualize how these tools are laid out through the course and how they interact with each other. You can find that in the description below. I really hope this course is useful to you. If you find you're benefiting from it, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and send this course to someone that you feel could benefit from it. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to hear how these tools and strategies are helping you to answer that calling in your life to create something beautiful through song. Let's go. What makes a song magical? When I work with songwriters, they're often at a point where they've been writing songs for a while, and they want to move their songs from being ordinary to extraordinary. These are the things that we'll be talking about throughout this course, and things that I know as writers inspire us to be able to take greater control over our process and over the result of what we make. There is some language that we can use. When it comes to the lyric element, well, it helps us feel strongly about the idea, or it takes us to another place, or it sings well. When it comes to melody, it's hooky, it's catchy, it's memorable. When it comes to rhythm and groove, maybe it's fun, it's danceable, it's got momentum, it's got drive. There are many ways to describe why a song is effective in making us feel like, wow, that was a moment I enjoyed having and I want to have it again and again. I think the way in which we can take our songs from ordinary to extraordinary and our process from something that just happens to something deliberative is in knowing what resonates with us as a person. Now, when I listen to a playlist of music that I've curated for myself that represents what I've liked over the decades, there are similarities amongst that music, even though it covers quite a lot of ground in terms of styles and genres. I know that I really appreciate lyrics that tell stories, and it's really kind of where I find myself writing most of the time. I know that I struggle to create groove and rhythm from the get-go in the songwriting process, and I was brought up to think melody and lyric. And so if I start my process with more groove and rhythm, I end up satisfying an element of my songwriting that tends to get left behind. I hear myself enjoying rhythmically driven songs, production that's full and intricate and detailed, but I also enjoy a simple acoustic single vocal demo. There are many, many ways to express our songs in terms of production, but the key elements that I want to be listening for as I begin to understand who I am as a writer and how I want to express myself is in the songwriting elements themselves. We can control melody, we can control the chord progression, the rhythm and groove, and then finally the lyric. And in those four elements lie many, many possibilities to discover who I am as a writer and artist, and to be understood by my listener. What I would like for you to do to begin this process of understanding your own artistry is to make your own playlist of 10 songs that have been influential for you along your musical listening journey. These are songs from other artists that just simply hit you straight to the heart. And when you listen to these songs, I want you to pay attention to what are some of the important markers with regard to melodic stylings, lyrical tendencies, chords, and then rhythmic feel. And I want you to see if you can find patterns throughout these songs that express to you what you value, what needs to be there to create a magical experience that you resonate with, rather than just a song that's functional. Listen for a few days, take a little bit of time to really steep yourself in these songs, and it might be interesting to share your playlist with a few other people and get their response as far as what are some of the elements you hear. In general, how do these songs make you feel? Are they intricate and detailed? Is there a delicacy there? Are they empowered and bold and brazen, or aggressive and dynamic? What are some of the qualities that are coming out in all of these songs that might give you insight into what you value? When you're done with this exercise, come back and we'll look a little bit more into this idea of writing what is you and what you know as an artist. A familiar story for us as artists and writers in the industry is that we keep trying to write what we think others will like or want to record, only to find that we're recreating what others have already made. And we keep pushing up against this door that represents sort of success on the other side, and recognizing that until we really just write what we know and write what resonates to us, or write what we would want to listen to, we never quite actualize the vision that we have. So write what we know is a wonderful piece of advice to keep giving yourself throughout your writing process. Some of the things that I know Catholic Mass from 10 years old at midnight on New Year's Eve. I know humid Minnesota nights and playing outside until 9:45 at night when the sun was just going down. I know going out to the deli at 1 in the morning, the only one that was open 24 hours, and hanging out with songwriters and drinking Coke and trying to stretch the Coke as far as it'll go because we couldn't afford to get more food that night as struggling musicians. I know things that I could write about, and the limitation is how I see those fitting into the scope of a song. As we develop as writers, it's important to make space for writing about the things that you know about. So give yourself time to discover who you are as you develop as a writer. There can be a tendency to gauge how successful our songs are by comparing them to other songs. But if we stop there and just continue to write what we believe another artist might be able to sing and contain, then we're only allowing our own art to flourish as broadly as it might look on a different artist. I believe that each of us, even though we might label ourselves as a songwriter, we must become artists, because it is through our being that we express the things that resonate with us, and as human beings will resonate with the universal. How we discover and refine our own artistry is the same as it's always been. We write, we record, we release the music, and we share it with people. I think this hasn't really changed, even as the industry around us and maybe the modality in which we do these things changes. But whether we share on a large scale or just with our intimate, small audience, maybe family and friends, the act of putting music out there and releasing it and allowing others to embrace it develops us as writers and artists and puts closure on where we were at the time of making that art. And then I think we can reflect on what we've made take time to enjoy it, and recognize where we might go as a result of having made that art. And over time, that act of writing, recording as best we can, releasing in the manner that we can, and allowing others to hear it and embrace it, then we can begin to reform and transform ourselves over time and become more of who we are. I would like for you to do a little exercise right now that'll just take about 15 to 20 minutes. I want you to grab something to write with and go sit by a window. And I want you to make a list of things that you know. Now, they could be short little bullet points like, I know about my dog leaping up onto my bed at 5 a.m. and staring me in the face while standing on my chest, right? I know about the door slamming when my toddler gets up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. I know about there being a sink full of dirty dishes and everybody's gone to bed and it looks like I'm loading the dishwasher again. Now you know a little bit about my life. Make a list of things that you know about, and they'll seem insignificant. But the thing is about song, the ordinary becomes extraordinary because there is meaning in the insignificant moments that we live. This is where songs reside. Make your list, put it to the side, and come back for the next lesson. There's no one right way to write a song, except for the way that finishes a great song. And that can be different from song to song. I tend to start with lyrics most of the time because lyrics for me take the longest to finish. And I get a little bit anxious when I've got a lot of great music that I like and then no words. There are different ways to write, and whatever way empowers you to feel like it's gelling and the song gets done and is shareable, that's the way to keep going. Sometimes when we're in situations like a collaboration, we find that we have to be flexible in the way that we approach a tune. If I'm writing top line, as the producers are building a track, I need to come up with melody and lyric that suits the structure of the track. So my process has to adapt to what's given to me in the room. But if I'm at home on my own writing, inevitably, I'll pick up my guitar and I'll start strumming something and sing a little something, or have a few lines of lyric that begin the song for me, and I'll set those to a little bit of melody and chord progression and groove. The way we start affects whether or not we finish. And so process is a skill that we can use to adapt. So if we typically start with melody, and then we add words, and then finally we go and we add chords, sometimes we might find that our excitement about the chords is just not there. They're kind of an afterthought all the time. Now, consequently, if we're leading with melody, it can be that the reason why we're doing that is because we feel most capable of writing melody. Or perhaps we're a strong vocalist, and that's what we do to lead the song and make sure that something is hanging together. I like to switch up the process sometimes and recognize that, when I start with lyrics, I tend to get a lyric-heavy song. The lyric tends to be the leading edge of my tune. When I start with chords and groove, though, and then I sparsely pop some melody in there with good rest space and some other elements that put music as the leading edge, then I can pull back on the lyric and say, you know what? The lyric is icing on the cake now. And I have just created a new style that I would not have created had I gone with lyrics first, as always. Sometimes I'll sit down and pay special attention to the chord progression that I'm using. Because again, for me, classical piano growing up, lots of Mozart going through my head, which results in lovely melodic phrasing with no groove. And so if I sit down and I just focus on feel, on harmonic rhythm, what are the chords and what's the rhythm with which I'm playing them, then I can feel better about moving into my strength areas, knowing that I've taken the time to develop something harmonically that I'm really happy with. So process can be a result of our strengths, and we can think more intentionally about our process and change it up a little bit to put us more in line with writing something we love and actually finishing songs. I would like for you to do an exercise in which you can examine your process a little bit. Think about how you normally write a song. Now, this may change from song to song, but one way to identify your process might be to look at what you feel really competent doing when it comes to writing a song. Do you tend to pick up your guitar and strum some chords? Do you not play an instrument and instead start with lyrics or melody? What comes with great ease for you? Now think about what's challenging about the songwriting process. What do you tend to do last because it's hard? Now, when we consistently write with the same process, it dumps us off the bus at sometimes, worst case, an unfinished song, and it never sees the light of day. So think about your process and how it interacts with your perceived strengths and weaknesses, and consider how changing that process might change the result and the song that you get from it. Let's talk about lyric writing. Lyric writing can be a little intimidating, and I think that where I'm going to take you throughout this course, I hope will make you feel more empowered to write lyrics that you feel intrinsically are right for the music you're making. Lyrics get their shape and their color from the musical landscape that they're in. So you can think of music like the body language that carries the words. The agreement, or the way that the lyric and the music interacts, we call that prosody. What do the words and the music make together? If I take a simple phrase like "hold on," and I set that to different musical landscapes, the meaning of those words is going to change, and the character with which we're singing them seems to change as well. So let me show you what I mean. Let's say I start with a little bit of a rock vibe. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. It's got a sense of drive. There's a little bit of power, there's some edge to it. But let's say that I take those same words and I position them over a landscape that's finger picking. Hold on, hold on. So here there's a sense of longing, of kind of playing with someone or something, or kind of wanting to be lifted up. It's a really different character, different feel. Now, an interesting thing is when we start to understand that the lyric can be a product of the music that we make if we make music first, or that the music is where we go when we write lyric first and we're drawn towards that musical sound. We begin to understand what our sound, our unique sound, can be, and also how we can change and manipulate pieces of that sound by not assuming that we have to go there with our musical landscape with those words, or that we have to go to those words from that musical landscape. Ultimately, what I think we can be the controllers of in our own songs is the connection between the words and the music, and they should always create something better than the two on their own. So an example of this, imagine Etta James, not me, singing "At Last." At last, Why sing a long note there? Why set it that way? Why not, at last my love has come along, you know? Well, it's true in both times. At last my love has come along, but oh, the pull, at last. She's waited a long time, and you can feel it with the music that also shares that message and really makes it come alive. So instead of thinking as lyric writing as a challenging portion of songwriting that we need to overcome or just squeeze by, I want us to start thinking of lyric writing as a way to express more through words what the sound that we're already making expresses. One of the best exercises for writing better lyrics is to do a form of writing called destination writing. It goes by many names: sensory writing, object writing, descriptive writing. You might even call it journaling, but I'm going to put a little more definition on just that idea of journaling as we go through this practice. Destination writing is the process of releasing our thoughts and feelings and descriptive writing in its raw form. So unpracticed and non-judging. And we do this for several minutes a day, every day, so you can get into the flow and stay in the flow of just generating words. Now, what is descriptive writing and how do we see it in the song lyrics that we know and love? I want to share with you what descriptive writing can look like as a lyric so we know where we're going when we do this practice. I've chosen a Randy Newman song called Baltimore. It's from the very beginning of this song, highly descriptive. So listen to this lyric with your ears attuned to taste, touch, sight, sound, smell, and movement in the verbs. And what you'll notice is there's quite a lot of imagery here. You'll see visually what the words are saying. Beat up little seagull on a marble stair, trying to find the ocean, looking everywhere. Hard times in the city, in a hard town by the sea. Ain't nowhere to run to. There ain't nothing here for free. Waiting for a train, drunk lying on the sidewalk, sleeping in the rain, and they hide their faces and they hide their eyes, 'cause the city's dying and they don't know why. Oh, Baltimore, man, it's hard just to live. Oh, Baltimore, man, it's hard just to live, just to live. Do you hear the imagery coming through in many of the lines here in this lyric? And it goes on to contain a lot more. Now, this is characteristic of Randy Newman. He gives us imagery to enable us to feel what he feels. It's like a keyhole looking at the world through his eyes. Regular practice, writing with sensory language in mind, allows us to become more attuned to the language, the whole amount of language that is available to us when we write lyrics. Now, not all songs need sensory language. The Weeknd has a wonderful song called Die For You. And this song has no sensory language, and here's what that sounds like. I'm finding ways to articulate the feeling I'm going through. I just can't say I don't love you, 'cause I love you, yeah. It's hard for me to communicate the thoughts that I hold, but tonight I'm gonna let you know. Let me tell the truth, baby. Let me tell the truth, yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but when I write lyrics like that, my little red flag, cheese flag goes up big time, and I start to think, how do I know if this is good? And I start to ask kind of these existential questions. What is good lyric? What is lyric? So I want you to remember that good lyric is an evaluative term based on how well the lyric and the music dance together, okay? So our goal is to figure out for each one of us as unique songwriters what that balance of sensory language and non-sensory language is to engage our listener with the musical experience that we're providing. Let me give you a verbal example of what sensory writing could look like. And this is just going to be me keying into imagery from a memory. Fireworks with my brother back in 1984. All right, here I go. We're in the cul-de-sac. I'm still skinny like 9-year-olds can be, shooting up awkwardly, crooked teeth. My brother and his friends, he's 3 years older, and they're dancing around a carbon snake they've just lit, and the tin cans glinting on the asphalt in the July 4 heat. And it's 7 p.m., but it's still going to be light for hours. And the poplar trees and the cotton are floating through the air, and I see my dad with his socks pulled up in his sandals and his shorts on and his knobbly knees. And now looking back, it makes me smile. And my mom standing there in her gardening clothes with the dirt on the knees and the sweatpants and the hat, the sun hat that covers half her face. Sunscreen, obsessed with not getting skin cancer by the time she's older. And I watch the bursts of light and the sparklers and the neighbor kids with their grimy hands and snot-dribbling noses, and I think about this time that seemed to pass so fast. And the way that the fireworks crackle above our heads, and my dog, a collie dog, mutt runt, barking at the hot air balloons, and the flush of the heat as it rises, this colorful balloon into the sky, and it's July 4th, and these times will never be back again. Okay, so this is this process of kind of losing yourself in the moment. And when you find that you might be drifting away or even your mind going blank, you can gently pull yourself back to the moment and just continue where you left off. Having a non-judging spirit is really helpful in this part of the songwriting process. And non-judgment is not the same as a lack of judgment. I'm just gently nudging myself back to what is inspiring to me, to what resonates with me. Whenever a new image pops in, I just tug at that one just a little bit and let it take me to a new image. This process, the more you do it, the more thoroughly you will feel that you've uncovered ideas and expressed them. And at this point, it's very natural to think, well, where's the song? So it's not about writing the song. This is about a daily practice. And also, then later on, we'll uncover how to take these gems that naturally seep from us and our history and our culture and who we are, and turn them into things that are meaningful to others as well. But for now, take this opportunity to do this exercise. I want you to start a daily practice and start it right now, where you take 5 to 10 minutes every day and do a form of sensory writing. Again, if you'd rather use your phone or turn on some recording device or do it on your laptop typing or freeform with a pen and pencil, it's okay. Whatever way you do it, choose a prompt. It could be a time like January 1st, 1992. It could be a place like sitting in an airport seat waiting for a flight. Or it could be a person like your Uncle Joe with the weird mannerisms. Anything that inspires you to begin writing. Now here's the thing. Observe your tendency to want to edit what you're making and reserve the editing for later. Also, don't use any form of judgment over what you're making. Just assess when you feel like you're moving away a little bit from the taste, touch, sight, sound, smell movement. Just draw yourself gently back. And then when you feel like you've come to a point where you've expressed maybe a small paragraph to a few pages, everybody's different, close it down and put it away and don't look at it again. Do another one tomorrow and another one the next day. And over time, you'll find yourself becoming more and more comfortable with the process. And then we can start to look at a little bit later how these ideas contain gems for songs, sometimes in their stories and many times in the language that we use to actually make music from. But for right now, all they are is our entryway into the creative cloud that is around us all the time. One of the most challenging things about lyric writing is that we many times have a story we want to tell. And it's hard to understand what do I need to say and what doesn't need to be in the song to tell the story and engage the listener to feel as strongly about it as we do. I want to share with you a few templates that you can use to determine what belongs in my song and what doesn't. One of the simplest ways of approaching a story in a song is to start by setting the scene. And this occurs in different mediums, whether it's movie and film or whether it's books. We first see the characters in their environment, and then we begin to understand what it all means. As an example of this is a Sara Bareilles song called King of Anything. So here's how this goes. Keep drinking coffee, stare me down across the table while I look outside. So many things I'd say if only I were able, but I just keep quiet and count the cars that pass by. Do you see the scene? It's so vivid and so clear. John Mayer has a song called Why Georgia, and it goes like this. I am driving up 85 in the kind of morning that lasts all afternoon, just stuck inside the gloom. 4 more exits to my apartment, but I am tempted to keep the car in drive and leave it all behind. So again, wonderful scene setting going on there. Okay, I want you to take a few minutes and do an exercise. I would like for you to go to some of the sensory writings you've done, and I want you to look for lines, phrases that set a scene in which your character is living and breathing and experiencing something. And I want you to make a mental note of how that scene is just like Sara Bareilles' scene, just like John Mayer's scene, but it's yours. It's something in which you are engaging the listener in a moment in time, so that what you say in your song after laying down that scene now becomes more significant and meaningful. When you're done, come back to me and we'll do the next part of this process. Setting the scene is a great way to start a song. Many songs do this. And when we set the scene, our listener is in the now with us, right there in that situation. When we go to tell a story, we can end up commonly writing, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And we lose a sense of the moment that we're rooted in while we're singing the song. Some songs do tell you what happens sequentially through time. Cat's in the Cradle, The Gambler. Things happen as the song moves along, but real life doesn't go from here's this problem that I've been having and here's how I overcame it and here's how I feel now in 3.5 minutes, right? The length of a song. So what we tend to do is we root ourselves in a moment and we tell what's going on right now, and we tell what happened to get us here, and we tell what do we think the future will be like. And from these time frames, we can deliver the story. This I call vantage point. Every song has a vantage point. It's the moment from which we are telling the story. And it's the moment that gives the song the reason to be told right now, as opposed to later on when the story fully unfolds. Let's say I'm writing a song about a challenge that I'm facing. Maybe I'm feeling nervous about moving into a new space in my life or a new phase, and I don't know what to expect. That challenge is the height of the emotion that I'm feeling right now, and so it deserves to be the first verse. When I'm expressing this challenge, if the chorus comes and it's the culmination of this, it's really hard and I don't know what to expect and I'm worried and I hope it's going to be okay. If I continue to tell you about this challenge and how much more nervous I am, the song doesn't move forward. And so the purpose of looking at past, present, future, and establishing the vantage point is to really begin to understand how to tell the full story I want to tell and make sure that the song keeps moving forward. Pharrell Williams has a wonderful song called Happy, and he begins the song by putting us in a scene where he feels happy. And listen to the sensory language here. Now, he starts with a non-sensory line, but boy, does it make me want to listen for the next line. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. See that sunshine? It already makes me feel like what he's talking about. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air like I don't care, baby, by the way. More imagery that just uplifts. Now, the whole first verse is dedicated to allowing me to feel the main message of the chorus. So by the time he gets there, I already feel it. He says, "'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof." Great imagery right there. "And I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth." That line just tells. "I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you." "I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do." So the chorus just tells me what it is, direct. Now, the second verse of this song takes that idea of being happy and flips it over. Because imagine for a minute if he kept giving us more examples of what happiness feels and looks like. He might be like, well, good for you. I'm glad you're so happy, but what about me, What about this other side? And so he says, all right, I'll look at that. Here's how the second verse starts. "Well, here come bad news, talking this and that," right? "Well, give me all you got. Don't hold it back." Now, this is an example of a song capturing the whole picture. So at any point in a song that you're writing, you can look at the solution and the problem. Or if it's helpful to you, you can look at the now or before the now. All right, in my example of the challenge that I'm facing, moving into a new phase in life, I could look back and say, you know what? I used to feel really good here. This phase used to fit me. New York streets and the busyness and the clamoring and the noise and the buildings and the stress. Man, it was invigorating. And after a while, I felt myself become part of the shadow of those buildings. I felt myself overwhelmed, maybe my voice muffled by the noise. And now here I am thinking, I'm in a new phase, right? So I've given you backstory. And I've also contrasted the challenge with how it used to feel invigorating. So whenever you're looking at the content of a story that you want to tell, see if you can push the content to its extremes in the solution or problem time frame of here's how it is now, here's how it used to be. Sometimes these extremes, they help us to understand how to move the song forward through its sections and help us to really expose all the information the listener needs to really feel connected to the transformation that the character is going through. The final time frame of future is often handled in the bridge, which I will talk more about later. But the bridge is often a look into the future. Kelly Clarkson has a wonderful song that was a very big hit called Breakaway. And in her bridge, buildings with 100 floors, swinging with revolving doors. I don't really know where they'll take me, but I gotta keep moving on, moving on, moving on. So she shows us an example of an intimidating vision, and that despite the risk, she's going to keep going. And that is futuristic thinking and a beautiful place for our bridges to go. So I would like you to try an exercise of your own. I want you to think of a concept that you feel passionate writing about. And it could be a title, or it could be just an idea like the one I had about being in a place now in life where I feel I'm entering a new phase. And I feel excited, but also intimidated by that change. And I want you to map out the concept in terms of what is the now? Is my singer experiencing a challenge? Or is my singer experiencing delight, joy, excitement in this moment? Or peace, calm? What's the now? Now, taking that, what would be the past? What led up to this moment? Or what is considering the flip side of that excitement and that joy? And then one last look into the future. What could be the future that's held for the character? Map out the different parts of your song just for a moment. Don't take too long, maybe 10 minutes. And see if you can see the broader view of your song in an outline of sorts before you dig into actually writing real lyric and music to it. Have fun. So I've talked about setting the scene and letting the first verse of a song establish the point in time and the place in which it's happening. And then we've also talked about vantage point as a way to tell a story and know what parts of the story to deliver in the song and when in terms of past, present, and future. There's another style of lyric writing that can help us to know how to express what we want to say, and it's called using a lens. A lens is when we tell a concept through an image. So for example, I can talk about a relationship through the lens of a tornado, and that relationship carries elements of a tornado, like it's spinning and it's violent and it's dynamic and it whips up the earth and everything it passes, and it carries it with it and sets it down somewhere else. Now I can change that concept to something else that seems to be characterized by those things. Let's say divorce. I could talk about a parent's divorce through the lens of a tornado. Using a lens is a wonderful way to allow our lyrics to carry a distinct style that doesn't require that we put the song in a particular time and place. Now, let me show you how a lens might look in terms of a song lyric. This is the song Who Are You Mad At by Jordan Shellhart. You come through the door like a hurricane, rattling walls and window panes, blow off the roof and let it rain on me. Then you get silent right after the storm and leave it to me to patch what's torn. I said I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I should be. Do you hear the words that reference the hurricane? And they even say the word hurricane right in the first line. That's the lens. A lot of times when we're writing, we initiate a lens in our lyrics, but we miss it. When we describe things like her hair falls like a waterfall, we are in fact giving the listener an image, and we can play off of that image, or we could just let that image go. When we play off the image, what we are doing is allowing ourselves the ability to do sensory writing around that image, and then liken those sensory terms to the concept we're writing about. So we're colliding a concept with an object that can be our image. Look for this idea, this lens, in other songs that you know and love, and you'll soon find that verbs like rattling windows come out over and over again. These verbs, these descriptors of taste, touch, sight, sound, smells, and movement, they come from the lens. And then you can use them to give shape and color to the concept you're really talking about. It's a beautiful way to envision a more abstract, metaphorical lyric style that might be more appealing to you if you don't want to write so direct and tangibly in your lyrics. Here's an exercise for you with lens. I would like for you to make a list of nouns, let's say 10 nouns that you think are interesting. And then look at a song concept that you would feel inspired to write about. And I want you to hold that song concept under the lens of each of those nouns. So you're going to imagine popcorn, that's my noun. Let me look at a relationship that I'm thinking about through the lens of popcorn. That relationship is unpredictable, it's fun, it's greasy, it's salty, it's something that is a little light in my life. Maybe it's under pressure. Maybe there's points of steam, heatedness in that relationship. But all in all, it's, I think, a little bit fun. Popcorn. Now, if I change the lens and I go through all of my ideas of nouns, I'm going to get 10 different songs. But ultimately, the practice here is to loosen up, let yourself take on different lenses for a single song concept, after which you can pick your favorite and write that song. Whatever kind of music we're trying to write, having a seed idea in a song that recurs so that the listener recognizes it as a familiar thought of words or words and music or melodic theme or chord progression. This is what allows us to communicate a singular, potent thought to our audience and for that to be understood and recognized again and again. When it comes to lyric writing, the seed idea that helps the listener understand where they are in the song and what it is really that we're trying to tell them often comes down to a title. Now, whether it is the actual title of the song or the phrase that is simply repeated often is up to us. Of course, some songs don't carry the repeated line as the actual title of the song, but I'm going to set that aside and say that it is important to have focus in a song, and the way that we can do that is to allow for a title phrase to come back and be positioned in areas that show itself as a main idea. Some songs have the title right up front and repeat it often. An example of this might be Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long anytime she goes away. Wonder this time where she's gone. Wonder if she's gone to stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. Another example would be Blackbird, the Beatles. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Our tendency is to write every song all the time, right? We want to say it all. But the most magical song experiences that I've ever had and that I hear people reflecting back to me over and over again is a song in which it asserts one point clearly, concisely, beautifully. That's our job, just one. And a verse, the job of the verse is to say, here is the supporting detail that makes me believe that one thought is true. And it's so true that there's nothing else I need to say in this song to make it song worthy. Verses often show us something. The chorus tells us what it means. Catching a clean, effective title is an art. Here are some titles that artists have had success with, and I want to investigate just for a minute what might be qualities of these titles that make them shine. Here's a title. It's Cool. Just the word cool. Fake Out. Death Wish. That's interesting. Speak to Me. Depeche Mode. Sometimes a title is just clean, simple, direct language. Now, other times a title can be eye-catching, like Superpowers by Daniel Caesar, Back 40 Back, Luke Combs, right? What does Back 40 Back mean? That's kind of interesting. Sometimes you will find that your intuition about a title has more to do with the way that it flows or doesn't flow than what the words are actually saying. And this is a beautiful thing because it's that feeling, again, that body language that the music is creating for those words that often let it seep into our skin and become art instead of just something on our to-do list for the day. So I would love for you to take a few minutes to begin what we would call a title list for yourself. Take a notebook or make yourself a digital document on which you collect titles. You could do this by setting aside 20 minutes, one day a week, and saying, today, for these 20 minutes, I am going to collect titles. You could go to some books that you enjoy reading and just open to a random page, scroll down for phrases, words, anything that might pop out to you that has title potential. You don't have to know. You just need to be open to what a title might be telling you. Jot the title down and set it aside for a later date. But start your title list so that when you have time to write, some days you can go back to that list and consider if any of those titles speak to you. There's one more element of lyric writing that I'd like to share with you that affects how we are perceived to our audience. When we write, we naturally take on a point of view with which we write, and the point of view comes out in the pronouns. So when I use first person point of view, I have I within the song. I am speaking to you or he or she or them. When I use direct address, I am directly addressing you as a person, you and me. When I'm using second person narrative, it's you know, when you feel this and that happens, and when you da-da-da-da-da. And so I, as the singer, am delivering to the universal audience a sense of, hey, I'm slightly outside this experience, I'm just relaying the information. When I'm addressing with third person, I'm saying he and she and they do this, think this. And isn't that the truth for all of us? I'm the narrator and I'm outside the song, so I can say what I want to say here. And none of it is necessarily how I am. I am just reporting the news. So how is point of view really useful to us as the songwriter? And how am I going to use it to create the kind of connection that I want to create? Well, I think one of the first things that we can do as songwriters is to simply notice the point of view that we're using. When we notice the point of view, we can change the point of view and experiment with how changing those pronouns affect how the song delivers. Let me give you an example. Here's a song called Never on the Day You Leave. It's a John Mayer song, and it goes like this. No, it's never on the day you leave that you wonder what you still believe in, and you can't remember why you said goodbye. You'll hear an old familiar sound and hope it's her when you turn around, but never, never on the day you leave. So I understand from this point of view that John is expressing a truth that might be my truth too. And she is gone. And so naturally, her is a distancing pronoun that works really well to further reinforce that she's not there. They've left. It's over. Now let me try changing the pronouns just to see what happens to the way you perceive me as the singer and the information that you get from the song. No, it's never on the day I leave that I wonder what I still believe in, and I can't remember why we said goodbye. And I'll hear an old familiar sound and hope it's you when I turn around, but never, never on the day I leave. So now, interestingly, I think the song becomes more personal, perhaps in a manner that doesn't translate to all of us, but it's just one person's experience. And it might even be a little confusing that way. When we change the point of view, we are changing the relationship between the singer and the audience. We're changing the way the information lands. And so, as a writer, even if I can't predict the effect that a change in the pronouns is going to have, it's worth trying. And it's another tool that gives me the ability to step outside my song and hear what the song is telling me that it could be saying, right? So it's a wonderful tool to be aware of the point of view and to be able to change it so that I can find the soul of the song and how the concept really breathes life with a particular point of view. Sometimes not having pronouns at all creates the interest that we want in the lyric. Going back to Randy Newman's song, Baltimore, listen for the lack of pronouns. Beat up little seagull on a marble stair, trying to find the ocean, looking everywhere. Hard times in the city, in a town by the sea, ain't nowhere to run. There ain't nothing here for free. Waiting for a train, drunk lying on the sidewalk, sleeping in the rain, and they hide their faces and they hide their eyes, 'cause the city's dying and they don't know why. For the first time, late in the song, we hear the word they. They is quite distancing. I don't know who they is, and I think I'm not supposed to know. It's just a group that I don't belong to, and they're basically strangers. And so the lack of pronoun there, I would say the use of no pronouns helps to emphasize the desolation of that experience, the separateness that he's describing, the tough times. So consider your pronouns and know that you have control over whether you use them and where you use them and which pronouns you use to create the feeling that you want to create. So a great exercise can be to find a song that you've already written, pull it out, and just exchange the point of view for a different point of view. Go from first person to third person, or from second person to first person, or to direct address. Haphazardly, without being able to see the future of what's going to happen, stand back and observe what the change causes. Now, sometimes you might realize, wow, that totally didn't work. This new point of view confirms that my old point of view was the right one. But sometimes changing point of view results in a breakthrough moment for a song, where what once felt cheesy and forced now feels authentic and real. And sometimes the point of view just calls out, finally, now I know how to finish this song. So I would encourage you to find a song, something that you've written that might be stuck or stalled, or something that you're not quite sure if it's done yet. Flip the point of view and see if it doesn't give you new insight into the song. foundational piece of our songs is clearly what we're doing on the instrument. And I don't know about you, but when I go to write the chords and determine the feel with which I'm going to play those chords, I can get a little sidetracked. And the reason is, I think it's natural to want to move away from the typical places we go. I know what I've been doing for years on guitar, for years on piano with my chords. And so sometimes it feels like there's nothing new, nothing really interesting that I'm doing. And the way that I approach songwriting can then become very lyric and melody based if I don't spend some time giving my instrument the chance to speak. And so what I'm really talking about is the chords and the harmonic rhythm, or the feel with which I'm expressing those chords. I think most of us are looking for interesting chord progressions when we go to our instrument. And certainly we can wind up with some really wonderful, right? Like some really interesting bass movements, some one major chord, a flat 7 chord, a flat 3, and just get real deep into, well, where can I go now? That's an interesting color. But only doing that leaves behind another wonderful area of harmony that is accessible to us without really even knowing chord names and kind of addressing the instrument with music theory. And that is paying attention to time signature, and when we're changing chords. I'd like to use a Sheryl Crow song called Strong Enough as an example of this. Now, when I play, I'm going to be playing chords that we all know if we've been playing guitar a while. I'm playing an A major, a D major, an F sharp minor, and an E major. So it's in the key of A. And in this song, what's interesting to me is how the chords transition from one to another. If I were given those chords, I might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I'm saying? One chord per measure. And then I'd wonder why I'm not terribly inspired to write the melody and the lyric. And so here's what Sheryl Crow did with Strong Enough. And it has a wonderful movement that really creates beautiful prosody or dance with the melody. God, I feel like hell tonight. Tears of rage, I cannot lie. Be the last to help you understand. Are you strong enough to be my man? My man. So the movement here happens near the end of the measure. So, God, I feel like hell tonight. And I think, wow, what if I had remembered that I don't have to change chords every bar, or in the middle of every bar in 4/4 and beat 3, right? So it has such a beautiful lilt to it. This idea of when we change chords is really wonderful because then we can use it to contrast sections of our song. So for example, if I have a song that I'm playing and I know the verse goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. I'm going to use 2 chords. Bum, 2 measures. Dum, dum, da, da, dum, dum, da, dum, dum, da, da, dum, da, da, dum, 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 dum. Now look, when I change, dum, da, dum, 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 da, dum, 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 da, da, dum, da, 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 da. Now, that clearly was a new section, and did you feel the energy pick up? It's a result of 2 things. Going to a new chord, but changing much more frequently. Not much changed in the range of the melody. It's all due to doing something different here. And again, these aren't chords that you don't know if you've been playing too long. So it's really about the frequency of the chord changes. Basically, the more frequently I change, the more energy I infuse into the section. The less frequently, the more expansive I make it, the more sprawling it begins to feel. And that could feel peaceful and content, or maybe it feels a little bit, maybe it feels a little static and anxious. So here I'm staying on one chord for a long, long time. And that might create kind of a tension, like, oh, when is the tension going to relieve, you know? So when we change chords is a really beautiful technique that you can apply anytime because you simply don't need more chords than you have. A really great exercise to take yourself through a few times a week would be to just take 10 minutes and choose a few chords and play around with changing the frequency with which you play those chords. So let's say that I've got A major and D major, and I want to play around with real basic 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now I could change chords elsewhere. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Or I could stretch it out. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Right? And so, not having assumptions about how these need to go, I can open up a lot of possibilities for how the song will progress from here. So take 10 minutes and just play around with assumptions that you might have about when you should change chords and stretch those assumptions out a little bit. And you'll find that you come up with sort of new progressions, new feels just from that simple exercise. Nobody doesn't know that song. And it's really interesting because there's not much to it. And yet, it's the rhythm with which those chords are expressed that makes me realize it's that song, right? If I change that and I go, now it's not that song anymore. Same chords. So the rhythm or the feel, the harmonic rhythm with which we express our chords really affects the identity that the song takes on. And furthermore, it helps to establish who the character is. Now remember this idea that music is king? You can choose all the chords you want to choose, except if it doesn't correctly express the character with the harmonic rhythm, we will not get the full scope of that character, right? So Guitarists learn this by playing along with songs that they love, and they develop that right hand flexibility, which for us as songwriters would mean that we get to develop a vocabulary of rhythms and feels that can then help us to write different styles of songs. Now, we could go with something more rock, right? And just because of this feeling now, a melody is coming to me that has more of a rock groove to it. If I finger pick, I took my love, I took it down. Suddenly, I get a little sentimental, right? I climbed a mountain, I turned around, and I start to feel this sense of looking back and reflection, and just wonderful. But it's that harmonic rhythm, that mood, that feel that takes me to that place lyrically. So if you feel that you're writing a lot of the same songs over and over again, and that is kind of a point of stuckness to you, then something that you can do is absolutely, first of all, listen to music. Music, particularly outside of the music that you typically listen to. Because what we want to get is some new influences on our right hand. If you're strumming with your right hand, we want to get some moods and feels that take us to new places with our content. So how much should we listen? I recommend that you listen to at least one new record every week. If you can, more is always great. But to take that a step further, pick a song on the record that you resonate with and play along with it. Now, it could be that you have to mute the strings because it's a mess and you're not even able to play in the key that it's in, right? And you bring out your capo and it's still a mess, right? It's okay. Just try to let your right hand actualize a little bit of that feel. And then you might even record yourself laying down your best guess at what that is. And then later you can pull it out and try writing over that feel. And we don't even really need chords here yet. At that stage, we can simply strum, get the feel into our bones, and then write something inspired by that feel. So I would recommend doing that once a week if you've got the time, but definitely a few times a month. And it'll help you to develop a vocabulary with which you can write new songs and inspire you. A really great exercise that you can do anytime, anywhere, is to put on a record and pay attention to the feels and the grooves and how they make you feel. And when you're listening to something and it's inspiring you to write that way, take that groove and start to sing some of the titles that you're developing in your title list over that mood and groove. The idea here is not that you need to come up with your own unique and original moods and harmonic rhythms every time you sit down to write, but you can borrow from what other people are doing within a genre or outside of your genre, and just experiment with how the things that you say lyrically and your melodic ideas feel over those grooves and rhythms. And this can then unlock a whole new style of songwriting for us that we're just using other artists to inspire us with and create a template together. Try this out for a few minutes every day and see what comes to you from the titles that you have connecting to the music you hear from other people. Sometimes it's intimidating to manage to capture words and melody and chords and feel all at the same time. So I want to tell you that it's okay, and sometimes even preferable, to put some of those areas aside while you work on one. Sometimes folks who don't play an instrument will say, "Oh, I hear it in my head. I know what I want to hear." but I can't find it on the instrument. And I'll admit, sometimes when I'm sitting with my instrument, I will search around to see where do I think I want to go. And of course, I know all the normal places to go, but sometimes we hit where we want to go by accident, and sometimes we have to look for it a little bit, and we'll know it when we hear it. So there's nothing wrong with saying, well, I don't know, I'm just going to look around a bit. But one of the best ways, I think, to set some of these things aside is to say, you know what, I've got 5 fingers, but they don't need to all be playing at the same time. I'm just gonna do one. I'm gonna capture a note in the chord, and for me, it's gonna be the root of the chord. And I'm gonna use this song, Bill Withers' Lovely Day. Oh, amazing song. And I'm going to just pluck the bass, which is the root of the chord. And I want to look at, why did he choose the chords that he chose? What is so great about this E to a C sharp to an A? Why those? Because under a melody, we can play a number of different chords to capture the emotion. So the first line of the song is, when I wake up in the morning, love. And he goes, when I wake up in the morning, love. So it starts on the root of the scale, and it's in the key of E. So it's, when I wake up in the morning, love, and sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind. So the idea here is that he plays very simply the root of the scale. First, the key, the E. Now, why start on the E? When he plays, when I wake up in, I'm singing a note that collaborates beautifully with the key. When I wake up and when I wake, it's the 5th over that E. It's very agreeable. And so I think that sets the tone for the whole song. It's almost like he's saying, all right, when I wake up in the morning, love, it's not awful. Like, it's not, I'm drowning in all my troubles. It's, all right, it's all right. You know, take this with a pinch of salt, a little bit. When I wake up in the morning, love, right? There's a little bit of challenge. That morning, sometimes like, not sure I want to wake up yet. That's what this C sharp minor does for me. It's a little dark, right? A little darker. It's darker than this. This says, little pang, little twinge. And then he goes, the sunlight hurts my eyes. That's a little bit painful, right? Just a little. It's not a, I'm gonna die under the pain, but it's just a little jab. So what I'm saying here is that the chords are very intentionally chosen. And when you write a lot of songs, or Bill Withers was an amazing artist because he didn't release a lot of albums. And yet many of his songs are just pristine, I think. There's such intentionality in how the chords are able to bring out the message. Now, the song goes on to say, and something without warning, love, and bears heavy on my mind. It's not, bears heavy on my mind. That really bears heavy, right? If he goes back to that C sharp minor, bears heavy on my mind. He's got a little, to me, there's a little strength there. It's a little like, I'm able to deal with it. Stay tuned and we'll see what comes next, kind of a feeling. And then there's a little pre-chorus that happens and it goes, then I look at you and the world's all right with me. You know, it's like, what are those chords? Just one look at you. And so the feeling here, you can even look at it as, it's a C major, And then he goes up. He lets the chords rise. And it's a D major there, as far as I'm looking at it, skeletally. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. How do you say it's all right with me over a dark chord like that, an A minor? It's so interesting. So the colors of the chords, I'm going to call them colors, but the emotion that they cast over the words will be different for every song you write. And you have to attune to, what do I feel the message to be now that I move from this chord to the next? And it's a beautiful dance that we take with our song as it shares with us what it's meaning. Then we get to this chorus, I know it's gonna be, and here we go back, a lovely day, right? So it really is a lovely day because now we've come home. We're over the E major again. The world is bright despite the uncertainty that we've had in this pre-chorus. And we're staying away from the E so that when we come back, it feels like, wow, we've really arrived. It's a beautiful, beautiful, lovely day, just like he says. Now, if you know this song, you'll know that the chorus is just 1, 2, 3, a lovely day. Then the backgrounds are creating the movement. Lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. And he just gets away with this chorus that is one phrase over and over and over again. And I say get away with it because I think part of me is envious. Why can't I write something that simple and profound? And I think that it is a keyhole into a secret of magical songs. Magic happens when we are potent with our ideas. Just like with melody, we write a distinct theme and we allow ourselves to repeat it. With harmony, we allow for distinction, not necessarily complication. So whatever your skill set is at this point in time, whether you can move your way around your instrument in a manner that shows master level, or whether you're just beginning, I want you to take heart in that we don't need to be able to express for writing the bones of the song a guitar part or a piano part that is expertly crafted and played. What we're interested in the writing of a song is really, how do the colors of the chords that I've chosen, just simply played as they are, interact with the message in the lyric, and the rhythm with which I'm playing these chords help to express that message as well. If you're someone who tends to lay down a lot of recordings of musical pieces without lyrics to go with them, you are in a beautiful spot because you have all these wonderful chord progressions that are sharing with you a character, a personality. And now it's your job to mine some of those personalities for the imagery and the language that they share. So one thing that we have trouble doing, I think, is deciding on a single piece of music that we've recorded that we'd like to write to and finish. And so an exercise for a day might be to take 20 minutes, or maybe even less time, 10 minutes, and put that recording that you made with you playing an idea just on loop. And then what I'd like you to do is take out your laptop or paper and pen and just write feverishly whatever comes to mind with words that is inspired by the musical landscape you laid down. Now, in a way, you're kind of co-writing with yourself because you're saying, oh, I wrote this the other day. Isn't this kind of cool? There's something here. And now you're saying, well, what does this mean to me today? And it's okay if you're not in the same inspired space that you were when you wrote that initial idea. Your job now is to say, yeah, what are those chords telling me now that I'm in a different space? And that chord progression can help lead you to lyrical ideas that, even as they've come out onto the page in paragraph form, you can drag ideas out from to serve as pieces of your song lyric. There's a few really wonderful tools for writing the chord progressions of our songs that I want to share with you that will help to solve some of the issues that we might have that we could blame on the chords. One of those is that we can't quite get enough contrast between the sections. Another one of those is, man, I keep trying to get the chorus to lift, to really feel like, we're at the chorus. And it just kind of sneaks in. It's just kind of subtly there, and I can't quite get it to pop. Well, one of my favorite tools is saving the one. And what that means is, whatever key we're in, let's say we're in the key of G, I'm gonna wait to play the G chord till I get to the chorus, so that when that chorus comes and that G happens, it's like, there it is. Just like Bill Withers in Lovely Day, he avoids the tonic, the chord that starts on the root of the scale, for the section before the chorus. So when the chorus comes, it's like, there it is. So if I'm in G, and that's where my chorus is gonna land, I'm gonna avoid it before there. So maybe my verse starts on C. So, da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Now, this is my verse. Da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Notice that I am just using two chords. I'm using the C major and the D. But the idea here is that I've got two chords that when I move between them, it creates a very simple but potent sound. Now imagine for a minute if I were to use lots of different chords. I were to do ba-da-da, bum, ba-da-da, bum, ba-da-da, bum, ba-da-da, bum, ba, bum, ba-da, ba-da, da, 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 da. You have no idea where you are in the song, and honestly, I can't tell you anymore either. There's too much change, and so it becomes a jack of all trades and nothing in particular. So, one of the tricks to making contrast work between sections and to save the one effectively is to let your sections be distinctly potent. So I'm just gonna use da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Ba-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da. Now, I could go ba-da-ba, ba-da-da-da-da-da. And I've come to what might be a chorus. Now, a few things happened for me there. One thing that I'm not going to blame on the chords is da-da-da. Do you hear how my melody starts after that downbeat? I played, then I sang. And in the verse, da-da-da, I did the same thing. So what I'm sharing with you then musically is da-da-da, there's no hurry to hear what I have to say, right? It's just gonna eventually happen. And when we do that section after section after section, it begins to allow you as the listener to disengage. So if I'm purely focused on harmony though, I think what I was doing is, it's gonna work out okay.
just going C, D. But let me add now a pre-chorus section, because some of us then are like, well, wait, I want a pre-chorus to build the energy of this song, get things moving towards the chorus. I'm still gonna avoid the G, I'm gonna avoid the tonic, and I'm gonna go somewhere else. In a key, a major key, I have diatonic chords. We call them the chords that just seem like they belong. And I think, without getting into a theory lesson, for G, I've got A minor, I've got B minor I could go to. I already played the C and the D, and then I've got E minor that I could go to. Now, there are all kinds of wonderful inversions, G over B, in E, D over F sharp, and these are wonderful to bring into the picture to add subtlety, but I'm gonna avoid doing that at this point. I'm just going to maybe bring in the A minor for my pre-chorus. Da 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 da. Ba da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da da da. Da da. Ba da 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 da. Ba da da. So I went to an A minor, and I forget where I went there, maybe an E minor after that. But I'm trying to avoid that G, because if I go to that G, what's gonna happen is it's gonna take us home, and it's gonna dispel or diffuse all the good energy that I've built up through the avoidance of that home space. To practice this, see if you can take a chord progression that you typically use and identify the key you're in. Now, that's the chord that you're going to want to save for later, and pop it right up there at the top of the chorus, and then write around it until you get to that point. Some wonderful songs that have been written with this. One of my favorites to use is Kelly Clarkson, Breakaway. Grew up in a small town, when the rain would fall down, I just stare out my window. And it's not till the chorus that she goes, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it really lands us securely on that one in the chorus when she's talking about what breaking away feels like. Whereas before, she was talking about problems, right? So when the tonic, and in that song it's a C chord, in the way I was playing it, is used as a passing chord, it's okay. But when it's used as a place where I'm gonna land and come to rest, then we have a dispelling of energy happening there. So try this technique, just save the one a few times in a chord progression. Sit down for 10 minutes, write a progression that you feel saves the one, and then play it down and see how that feels to you to do that technique. And I think you'll find over time you can work that into your writing routine with intuition rather than thinking so consciously about it.
I want to talk about melody. Now, melody comes with great ease to some of us, and for others of us, it comes with quite a bit of difficulty. And something that I find really interesting to first talk about is, well, what makes a melody great? When we ask this question, sometimes we'll get things like, well, it's a very dynamic melody. It's got to be rangy. It's got to show off the singer's vocal. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes a melody is very small and winding, and it has a lot of notes, a lot of short notes that allow us to deliver a good amount of lyric. Sometimes a melody is just very simple and structured and basic, and that shows the character of the song well. And other times it's syncopated or jagged, or the phrasing is very short and unpredictable, and that shares the focus of the message really well. So it seems to me the question that we should be asking, instead of how do you write a great melody, is how do I write a great melody for the song that I'm currently writing? Because that might be a very different set of tools than for a different song. It really comes down to what melodic tools support the message that I'm trying to get across. Just like we would ask ourselves, what are the chord colors? What is the harmonic rhythm that supports the message? We ask the same thing for melody. So we can define melody as two elements. It has a pitch element. So what am I singing right now, right? Which pitches am I singing? And then what is the rhythm of those pitches that I'm singing, which is really how long do I hold the note and when do I sing it in the beats of the measure? That's pretty much it. It's just pitches and rhythms ascribed to those pitches. When I think about melody in this way, it simplifies the whole landscape. So really what we need to know are, well, what are the pitch tools that I can play with? And what are the rhythmic tools that I can play with to end up with something that supports the lyric? And I think, remember what we were talking about before, where music is the body language of a song. It tells us how to interpret the words that we're delivering. And so when you write melody with lyric and we say, the melody, it just flows. What I think we're really saying is that the melody and all parts of the song have become transparent, and we are only immersed in the experience of the song, feeling rather than thinking about the experience we're having. And that is where I want to take you with these tools. With melody, we get to control the forward movement of a song. And what that means is songs have energy. There's like an amount of energy that we start with, we establish in the front of the song. And I think as writers, we can feel that energy either moving forward and moving into the next sections of our song. And sometimes when the section's not working, we don't know why necessarily, but not working, we feel the energy sag. And we feel like, man, the song is too long, or the melody's just not right, or that chord isn't pulling us forward. With melody, these tools can help us to gain energy, or we call it gain acceleration, and push us forward. One of the things that we can do to create energy is to have a new section come. Now, I'm going to show you some different ways to apply repetition in a verse section. This can apply to more than just the verse, but repetition of a melodic theme is the most basic and useful melodic tool that we've got. I'm going to use this song called Hard Place by the artist Her. If she had given us only verses for this song, we may feel after a little while that the energy dips because the song doesn't build and grow. So the question is, how do we use melody to allow the song to build and grow? And the answer is contrast. We give the listener a new melodic theme so that it refreshes the energy at that point in the song. And this song has a pre-chorus that comes after the verse section. Now, I like this song as an example because the chords don't change. So what is responsible for creating forward movement is melody. So we just came out of a verse that was doing this. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-ba-ba. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right? Just nice and chill. So if the pre-chorus does this, I'd rather fight than lose sleep at night. At least you're all mine. That's a really different melodic theme. Now, I think as writers, we think, yeah, but how do I come up with that, right? And a really wonderful way to come up with a contrasting melody. Again, all we're looking for is a new melodic theme. because as you'll notice in this one, it repeats that melodic theme a few times before we hear something new. And so what I want to show you is how to use a drawing to bring up some contrast. So here's what I'm going to do. No music theory necessary. I'm going to draw the verse theme, and here's what it looks like. So I have rests, a couple of rests. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Doesn't it look like that? Da 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 da. And that's it. So I see a lot of short lines that are short notes. And then I write a little note up here, a little higher on my page to represent a pitch that goes higher. And then a little longer line for a little longer note. It's my cheat sheet for looking visually at what's going on. Now, this next section starts with this. But I'd rather fight. Wow, what a different melody here. Look at these long notes. And it has an upward, ascending shape. All right, the other thing that's interesting here is, look at these rests here. This melody of the verse starts after the downbeat in the measure. Play, then sing. That's what happened here. In the pre-chorus, though, there is no rest. I'd rather fight. And it has a longer, higher note here. So we start on the downbeat, whereas here, play first and then sing. Now, as we will find in the chorus section, we get contrast again. And it's going to look like a different shape here. And so one of the things that you can look at as you're drawing out melodies is the different shapes that your pitches take. And then, of course, the other element that you can look at is the different rhythms that you're representing in your melodic themes. I always like to say that in a song, all I need to do is write 3 good melodic motifs that are maybe different from one another, different enough that they reignite the song with some really great energy when they come. The rest is just repetition. Now, that to me is a lot easier pill to swallow than write a whole song, make it great. It's, how do I do that? So writing just pieces of a song and saying, this piece is the verse foundation, this piece is the chorus, this piece is the bridge. Now I feel like, yeah, I know what I'm trying to do. And it makes it an easier task to take on. Let me play for you what the chorus does in this song by her. Now, I'm a songwriter, not so much a singer. In other words, I gained my the singing ability that I have from writing a lot of songs and practicing a lot. So I'm really taking this guitar part too and removing all the elaboration that could happen here because I don't want any stylings on the guitar interacting with what I know to be the chord colors and the melody. That's all. It's just a skeleton of the song here. So I don't have to be a great player to write a great song. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to sing. Now, this is a bit high for me. And it goes like this. Here's the pre-chorus. But I'd rather fight than lose sleep at night. At least you're all mine. And if I have to choose my heart or you, and I'm gonna lose, yeah. What if nothing ever will change? Oh, I'm caught between your love and a hard place. Do you hear that new melody? And it goes way up, at least for me, it goes way up. Sounds great when her sings it. And then she repeats those melodic themes again. Now, One thing to notice, because I said that it's important to notice your tendencies. I may not end up writing a melody that is that rangy, and I would be missing out on melodies that are an option for me if I only write for what is comfortable or safe for my vocal. Yeah. Now, sometimes writing within what is comfortable and safe results in a little more focus on a rhythmic melody. For me, if I can't get contrast through higher pitches, then I'm going to feel like I need to up the energy of the song in the chorus, and I will rely on rhythmic tools to do so, which is totally all right. But I think it's also important to say that our tendencies are shaped by where we feel our strengths lie. And if we ignore other possibilities around those strengths, then we're missing out on some tools that could be useful to us. So I'm just going to remember from time to time that I may minimize my range in the melody because of my vocal limitations. And then I'm just going to address that in a song and play around with, yeah, I know it doesn't sound necessarily like I want it to sound, but it's okay. I know I can push the melody up there because I'm writing a song. I'm not performing the song. Now, the last thing I want you to look at is where the melody starts. In this chorus, we have, what if nothing? Nothing falls on the downbeat. Now, I play and I sing the word nothing at the same time, but the phrase starts before that. So if you remember, the verse started, wanna believe what you say, started after. The pre-chorus starts, but I'd rather fight, right? And the chorus starts, what if nothing? What a cool bit of contrast. So it's a very, very simple tool with phrasing that I'm sharing right now. And it is that you have 3 places that you can put a melody. You can start your melody after you play. You can start your melody at the same time as you play or before you play. And if we can say the downbeat of the measure is where we play. And just by utilizing this phrasing technique, you can ultimately drive contrast between the sections of your song in the most wonderful ways. But remember that that tool exists for you, and I would call that a rhythmic tool of melody. So this song is a wonderful illustration of some melodic tools and shaping tools that are available to us. And I think it would be a wonderful exercise to listen to this song and practice drawing out the melodies for each section. And then, to push yourself a little bit further, choose a song that you like by another artist and take 5 minutes and draw out the melody for each section. And just like I did, you can put a simple vertical line where the bar line is and indicate whether the phrase starts before or on or after that bar line. And then you can indicate the lengths of the pitches by the lengths of your lines and where those pitches are in terms of, are they going higher, are they going lower? And then you can kind of see the overall shapes and notice how contrast is achieved between the sections of songs that you know and love. And if you really want to get practiced with this tool, do this every day for a month with a new song from some other artist and see how the tendencies are creating contrast between sections of a song with melody. And over time, you'll find you adopt these tendencies into your own melodies. So I started this session on melody saying that what makes a great melody really is the melody's ability to carry the message of the song. And that's it. I want to use Kacey Musgrave's song Slow Burn to illustrate how we can wind up writing a melody that carries a message well. So the chord progression of this song, if you want to follow along, it's just, I'm going to do it in the key of D. I'm going to play it a D major, then A minor, and then C major, and then G major. And that's it. Again, in this song, it's all the responsibility of melody to create contrast and forward movement in the song because the chords don't change. So here's the verse. And again, it's a nice, small, little short note melody. I think it carries the lyric quite well, but I'll let you be the judge. Born in a hurry, always late, haven't been early since '88. Texas is hot, I can be cold. Grandma cried when I pierced my nose. Now something I'm feeling as I'm playing this is, wow, there's a lot of rest space. After I finished singing Since '88 and Pierce My Nose, did you notice this long expanse of just chords? That was awesome. And I think about, how come I don't do that in my own songs? And I think one of the reasons is, as a songwriter, I am unconsciously thinking that I constantly need to give the listeners something to listen to, something to focus on. I can't possibly let my audience just sit and wait for me, but we can. And it's a beautiful thing when we give them time to take what we've said in and just sit with it. Now, this song creates a gorgeous mood musically, and I love that she's not clogging it up with lots and lots of words and lead vocal. So I just get time to take the track in and feel how the message reveals itself, particularly in the chorus when she comes right out and says what I'm already feeling. Now, the verse continues as I get ready for the chorus here. Good in a glass, good on green, good when you're putting your hands all over me. All right, now we got the chorus, and it goes like this. As I'm all right with a slow burn, taking my time, let the world turn. Did you hear that prosody? The idea here is, I'm okay with a slow burn. She doesn't say, I'm all right with a slow burn, and then it burns down and everything gets real hectic, right? She lets me burn away slowly. And she does this beautiful little melisma, I believe it's called, burn, with her vocal, which is nice, and it gives me something to listen to. But I think what's really critical to the bones of the melody here is the length of the note and the comfort that she's able to have with giving me space to just burn away. Now, I'm going to play this chorus the way it actually goes, but then I want to play it the way that it might go if we were to use exact repetition. So the chorus keeps going. Cause I'm gonna do it my way, it'll be alright. If we burn it down, it'll take all night. It's a slow burn, right? That's how the song goes. But we might, as songwriters, get to a point in writing a melody where we've repeated something a few times and now we don't really know what to do. So I want to address that with another tool of melody. So here's the chorus again. I'm all right with a slow burn, I'm taking my time, let the world turn. I'm gonna do it my way. It burned down, it's a slow burn. What I did there was just repeat the melodic theme 4 times. Many, many song choruses do this. But I think sometimes I get to that second line in the chorus and I've repeated it in the melody again and I don't quite know what to do. And so what they did here is they used a tool where we shorten the phrase and immediately start a new repetition of a phrase. And so, I'm all right with a slow burn, taking my time, let the world turn, and I'm gonna do it my way, it'll be all right. It takes some love, that'll take all night, it's a slow burn. So they create this sort of forward movement by using short notes, not singing that long note anymore. And I'm gonna do it my way, it'll be all right. And if we burn it down and it takes all night. That's where the repetition now of that third line comes in. But short notes and shorter phrases sung back to back create acceleration. So now the chorus, instead of kind of sagging or sinking or just becoming, that's a nice chorus, now it picks up a little bit, yeah? And then we sing that last line, the title line. It's a slow burn again, and it feels really good to slow it down again. So you might think of melody as a process of contracting and expanding. When we expand, it's like using longer notes and longer phrases. And that sort of slows us down into the moment, yeah? When we contract, we use shorter notes and shorter phrases, and that gives the feeling of speeding things up. The tempo doesn't change, but we feel acceleration in those moments. And I think this is a really useful technique when it comes to melody, when you can remember, I can expand or contract here. And when you've expanded for a while, you can remember, I think I need to contract to get more energy into the section I'm writing. But we can't keep up that energy forever. Then we expand again and bring the listener back into a moment. So remember your rest space, and remember that short notes, long notes, short phrases, and long phrases are really useful rhythmic techniques when it comes to melody to produce the sound you want to make. A really wonderful exercise is to practice using rest space in your songs. I know for my own writing style, which is heavy on the lyric. I lived and worked in Nashville for a long time, and lyric is king. And so my writing style that resulted from all that focus on lyric sometimes would minimize the significance of the melody in the song. And there were a lot of words to carry. And so when there's a lot of words, it's difficult to sing a very dynamic melody. Now, when there's a lot of words, sometimes the song ends up being clouded with words, very dense, and we don't give our listener time to take those words in. And so we can practice this intentionally by using a couple of lines of lyric and playing around with the rest space. So I could sing, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to know I'm there. It doesn't take a lot. No, I'm really intentionally putting a lot of rest space into this section that's growing because I want to play with how much rest space I can get. I could draw that back even further. It doesn't take a lot. No, there's a point where for me, if I don't give the listener enough to chew on, it doesn't take a lot. I liked the word a lot in there because then it completes a thought. And now the listener has something to sit and think about during that rest space. So I think rest space is something that we can always play with. And generally, most of us as songwriters are not giving our listeners as much rest space as we could for them to sit with our thoughts and really take them in as significant. So practice this idea by taking a few lines of your own and seeing how far you can push this idea of rest space. Sing part of the phrase and wait longer than you're comfortable waiting to come in with the rest of the phrase, for example. Do this for 3 or 4 sections, playing with how much rest space you give yourself. And you'll notice the structures of the sections changing too. They'll be longer. You can't say as much as you could when you're packing the lyric together, which for some of us is a great thing because it reduces the weight on our shoulders with lyric. Play around with rest space. It's a beautiful tool that adds significance to what we do say, because what's left over has more space to say what it means. I want to talk about just a few more melodic tools that we can use to make writing a section of a song come a little bit more quickly. Strumming my pain with his fingers. That's a melodic motif that most of us know. Now, if the next line goes da 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 dum bum 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 ba. Now, I just repeated exactly the melodic motif of line 1, but we know that's not how the song goes. The song goes, strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words. So what's happening there? This is a really cool technique where you can repeat the rhythm of the melodic theme, but change the pitches. Now, here's the golden rule here for writing a section of any song. You can use repetition while changing the pitches of a motif but maintaining the rhythm, and we'll still hear it as that melodic motif. And this is awesome because now we know we could repeat the motif both in its pitches and rhythms if we like that sound, or we could just repeat the rhythm and not the pitches. Billy Joel does this in She's Always a Woman to Me. Dum bum ba da dum dun dun da dun 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 da dun dun da 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 da. Same melodic motif, just transposed up or down, wherever you want to put it. And your chord changes will guide you as to where you're going to start singing that new repetition of the melody. But it's such a wonderful, wonderful tool. And we hear it a lot in the songs we know and love. So a great exercise would be to aim to practice this technique by writing a simple first line of a section. So you're going to decide on a motif. And then you'll transpose that motif by pitch, up or down, according to your chord changes that might inspire you of where to start it now with pitch. But you're going to maintain the rhythm of that melodic motif. Practice this with a few different sections, and the more you do it, the more you'll feel like you can naturally integrate that technique into your everyday writing without being so conscious about it. When we're setting a section of lyric to melody, we have a lot of choices. And one of the choices that we can make is, how do I pace this lyric across the bars of chords that I've got available to me? I'm going to use just a simple couple of phrases to illustrate how you have choices. Now, let's say the lyric is, if I never go far, if I never make it. Now, I could sing those back to back and do something like, and if I never go far, and if I never make it, that's all. Now, I had if I never go far. So I started before the downbeat and I landed as I played. And then I had this rest space. If I never make it, right? But I don't have to do that. That's not the only idea. There's a multitude of ways to sing something. Let me get rid of the rest space for a minute and just push those phrases close together. If I never go far, if I never make it. Interesting. It's almost as if now that first phrase tumbles right into the second and you almost don't get time to hear what I said. Yeah, the lyric goes by very quickly. I think that
when we write lyrics down on a page, what happens is we start to imagine that the way that we have to deliver it is according to the way the lines are written. And so then I forget, wow, I could do, if I never go far, if I never make it. Why couldn't I try that? You can break your lines up and allow your instincts for melody to begin to take over. I could even use repetition like this. If I never, never wake up. If I never, never make it. If I never go far, far. Now my instinct kicked in of what does far sound like in terms of melody? What's the meaning of that? If I never, never make it. If I never go far, far. Maybe those long notes show distance, you know? And maybe they don't, but the idea is you got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. When you start to see melody as pitches and rhythms, and I can break anything, anywhere, use repetition, like, 'cause I'm free. I'm free falling. I'm sure glad Tom Petty remembered, I can break this anywhere, and I can use repetition of a word. Otherwise, we'd never have that song. So remember that these tools are available to you. So a great exercise to practice would be, take just 2 lines of lyric that you have lying around, doesn't have to be anything significant, and practice looking at them as just rhythms that you can ascribe to pitches. And you can break those words anywhere that feels natural to you. Even try some breaking that doesn't feel natural. Just push record and sing some variations for 3 to 5 minutes with the freedom to make mistakes, things that you would later say, yeah, that didn't work, don't like that. And over time, what you'll recognize is that you become more flexible with melody and setting lyrics to melody, where you can make choices for yourself, just observing what happens, of how the melody lifts the words to mean something more than they would when they're just written on the page. So try that practice out a few times a week for a little while until you feel like you've gained some control over how your lyrics are setting to melody.
When you're writing the melodic themes for your song, I think another helpful idea is to think about alternating 2 melodic themes to make a single section. Now, I like to talk in extremes when it comes to writing because much of my mediocre writing is sort of living in the middle ground in subtlety. But when we push our ideas to the extreme, like I write a very dynamic melody or I write a very small clustery melody, and you put those 2 things together, suddenly I can really feel the movement from one section to another. Similarly, when we're writing 2 melodic themes to live in the same section, it's great if they do something quite different. So using the tools of pitch and rhythm, let me illustrate what that might sound like. Let's say I've got a section. I'm going to start with a tempo here. Here's my tempo. 1, 2, 3. And da-da-ba, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Ba-dum-dum, ba-dum-dum, ba-dum-dum-da-dum-da-dum. Ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I just wrote what would be maybe a 6-line section. I had line 1, and then I had a repetition of line 1 and line 2. Remember, the repetition is not necessarily always with pitch, but with rhythm. And then the 3rd line was ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-ba-ba-da, was a different melodic theme. Yeah. So in this section, I gave you 2 melodic themes, And the second theme that we heard in lines 3 and 6 was distinctly different. It was more da 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 ba 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 ba, whereas ba 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 of line 1 was more dynamic. So the shapes of these two motifs were different and the rhythms were different-ish. They both had short notes to an extent. But the difference in those motifs is what allowed me to really use them together in the same section. So to practice this, see if you can write a melodic theme for the first line, repeat it again for line 2, and then for your third line, write a long phrase using either long notes or a different shape in your melody. You can also do this with a 4-line section. So if I have a tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 ba ba da 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 ba da da da. So here you can hear those two melodic motifs alternating. So 1 and 3 are the same, and lines 2 and 4 are the same. Listen for this in songs that you know and love, and you'll find that really the maximum number of motifs we're going to ever really go for is 2. And so again, that simplifies our job as the songwriter, where we just need to write 2 motifs that carry different traits, and then they work really well together. Try this out by writing a 6-line and a 4-line section using alternating motifs for a week. Just give it 5 tries throughout the week. And again, you don't have to write words to these, just melodic theme, maybe even over chords. But it's such a helpful tool in designing sections that carry good forward energy, where the melodic themes are distinct and wonderful.
Throughout this course, I have tried to focus on some of the most essential tools for writing melody, lyrics, and harmony. But the most essential part of this whole process is you. Your willingness to sit down and let happen what is about to happen is a difficult thing to take on. And indeed, one of the reasons why many of us don't allow ourselves to finish songs. There's a certain amount of abandon that we have to apply here, that when we sit down and play, it doesn't sound like the record, right? When we sing, there are artifacts in there we'd rather not hear. And when we write lyrics, it's going to mimic the end result, but it's not going to be quite there. So everything we do is sort of pointing at the real thing. And so when you're listening to your own songs back, you might approach them with a critical ear that makes you want to throw in the towel. And I can tell you that we all experience this sense of, oh, it's almost what I wanted, but not quite. And it's very hard when you're inside the artist space to observe how the song feels as it's being shared with others. So give yourself time, give yourself space, and plug in to the flow of creativity often, so that the risk that you feel of each time plugging in, and is it going to be worth it, gets lower and lower and lower until you get to a point where you're like, nah, I do this every day. I do it every day. It's no problem. When I wrote a lot with others in Nashville, I would sometimes over-prepare. What am I going to bring? Do I have a title that's good? What if they don't like this? And I began to watch others around me who would just walk into the room and be like, I got nothing. You know, I've written 4 songs this week already. And I realized that there's a sort of calm confidence that we can build
just by putting ourselves in a space to receive ideas over and over again, proving to ourselves that they are going to come. And the only way in which they don't come is if they don't measure up to what I would like them to be. Just like at the beginning of this course, when I gave you 10 minutes to write 2 sections of a song, you had to deliver. And with a time limit, it now is limiting your ability to refine the ideas that come out. You can't be choosy if it's all you have to give. Similarly, some days we're going to allow ourselves to just brainstorm and let everything fall out on our instruments or with words that comes to us. And we're going to take that part of the process and separate it completely from the editing phase, which is where we get to refine and we get to choose and say, you know what, this idea, this is really where I said it best. So editing is a large part of the process where we get to be in our head. But brainstorming, that's where we plug into the soul, and it's heart to heart right there. We need both parts of the process to have a sustainable practice. Now, as you go forward, there are some things that you can do to kind of prime the pump and make sure that you're putting yourself in a position to receive the ideas that are there for you, and then bring them to fruition to actually full finished songs. One thing I like to do is to put a time restraint on my writing practice. So my writing day might go like this. I wake up, have my coffee, can't do anything until that happens. Then I sit down at my desk and I do some writing. I might turn on a record from somebody else that I like, pull up some Spotify music, Apple Music, whatever it is. And then I might do some free writing, some sensory writing while I'm listening, and just letting that drone in the background. Then I might get up, get a snack, come back, and just pitter around on the instrument a little bit. And I'm more of a piano player than guitar player, so I'll just sit and I'll mess around a bit. Then I might lay something down and say, well, of the 15 minutes I've been just joyfully expressing myself on my instrument, I'm going to put down what I've got, something that emerged from that session. So again, my DAW is set up, so I'm ready to go. I'm just going to push record. I'm going to lay down the little thing that I came up with. Maybe it's a section, maybe it's 2 contrasting sections. Set that aside. Then I'll go back to some sensory writing that I did a different day. I'll start lifting out titles because I know that's an exercise that I can consciously do in the editing phase. That's not part of brainstorming. So I'll look at the sensory writing I did and consider, what about that phrase? What about that title? That word's interesting. What would it be if I lifted that out? Now I can do a few things. I can develop some song outlines where I say, I think if the verse were to say this, and the chorus was to talk about this, that might be a song. Oh, what if I scrapped that and I reimagined that title in a new way? What would that look like? All right. Now I might pull out a song that I was working on from a different day, finally. And to be honest, that's the thing I really wanted to do when I woke up this morning. But instead I said, you know what? That can wait. Right now I'm going to plug into the source. And I'm going to start each day with generating ideas. Finally, when I get to this point where I'm working on something from a different day, I listen to it back. I don't like to have the lyric in front of me when I'm just simply taking music in as a music listener. Because sometimes when I look at lyric, I become cognitive again, and I start to pick it apart, and it's calculated, and it's but that verb and that pronoun and this and that. And the listener doesn't hear music that way. We just let it wash over us. And I have that perspective that, you know what, I'm going to pay attention to how I feel. And if I feel like the song is sagging at any point, I'll address that. And I'll start at that point, say, you know what, if I did do something different, what would I do? And here we can bring up tools that we've talked about. What is the melodic shape? Where does it go wrong? How about the chords? Is it the chord that if I replace that with another chord, it's now moving me ahead? What if I cut that section entirely? What about that? Sometimes the absence of something when it's giving me trouble is the solution that I was looking for, because I kept trying to make it work and put it in a position that it just wasn't meant for. So this rewriting phase is where I spend most of my time. And on a day like this, where I'm finally getting to the rewriting of a song that I'm in the middle of, I may spend 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe 3 hours, if my excitement extends that long. When I feel it waning, I will close the book, put it aside, and know that as I continue to take out new songs each day, the ones that seamlessly begin to finish themselves are the ones that were meant to be done. Now, sometimes it is good to beat that wall and decide, you know what, this one is good. I'm not cracking the nut, but I gotta get it. I gotta get it. So I'm gonna stay up for 3 nights and 3 days and get it done. That's okay too. But sometimes there's a sense that we can't live that way. And so our art has to work with our lifestyle. And it's okay to say, you know what? I'm not able to crack this nut right now, so I'm going to refresh, go to a different song, see what's going on with that one. And where my interest and my inspiration sort of peaks again, where that spark happens, that's where I'll put my focus. Co-writing is a beautiful way to reignite the spark. Because when you co-write, you're putting yourself in the space of someone who's suggesting, let's start the song here. How about with these chords? Let's start the song with these words. Let's start by trying to write for this artist. And you don't ever write for that artist, so let's see how trying that on feels. So co-writing can be a very challenging thing to do, because it is, in a sense, saying you're going to write with a different process than what comes naturally to you. Go ahead, do it. You know, it feels like, what do you want me to do? And so when we change our own process, we are, in a way, providing ourselves with a collaborative option. But writing with other people is a beautiful way to branch out beyond our typical stylings and try a process that's different than how we normally approach it. It stretches us in ways that writing on our own doesn't. And it can also end up putting us in a position where our natural skills are not helpful. And so we need to adjust to what the situation calls for. Throughout this course, we've talked about melodic tools, and we've talked about how melody is just simply pitch and rhythm. And when we can identify, what is the shape of my melody? What is my melody doing in this area of the song? And then we can identify any rhythmic qualities that our melodies have. How long are the phrases? How long are the notes? Where am I singing the note? Is it before, on, or after? These are traits that can help us to decide, is this the right melody for what I am saying? Does this create a great melodic motif, or do I need to look further? And does this create a melody where I can hear the song build throughout and create contrast between my sections? We've talked about this dance between lyric and melody. And when our lyric and melody are working together seamlessly, they lift each other up to become something together that they cannot be alone. With lyrics, we've talked about sensory language, and the practice of generating sensory language every day is simply sitting down with a prompt and either speaking it or writing it. And then we've talked about creating title lists, using outlines to quickly jot down what we think a section might say if we knew. We've talked about the functions of different sections, what a verse does, what a chorus does, what a pre-chorus and a bridge can do in a song, musically and lyrically. And we've talked about vantage point, how a song is rooted in a point in time. And we can look back and we can look forward. But the vantage point is what says, this is why this song is so critical to sing right now. We've talked about chords and their emotions and their great impact on what we're saying. And above all, music is king. Whatever we say lyrically, it gets its blood flow from the music. This is a beautiful, beautiful symbiotic experience that we can have with our songs, and they can teach us what they're trying to say as we are writing them if we stay attuned to their messaging. I hope that moving forward, you can find the space and time in your life to do the exercises. As much as life gets busy, see if you can commit to just 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes, especially when it comes to doing a part of the process that comes with greater difficulty to you, or maybe comes with a little bit of insecurity. Just sit down and write that chord progression. The worst that could happen is it's like the one you wrote before, right? The worst that can happen is that melody doesn't do anything quite different than you thought it did, and it's all right. Change little things about the rhythm, change little things about the pitch. Let songwriting become a source of growth for you in seeing what it can become. I encourage you to set a monthly intention moving forward. For example, if it would be possible for you to say, I'm going to write 2 songs a month, aim to write 4, and here's why. I want you to take on the idea that there is plenty for all. You can generate a list of 15 titles in 10 minutes if you must. And so there's this balance, I think, of we're going to write with a non-judgmental approach, which is not the same as lack of judgment, but we're going to allow for ideas to come out so that we can choose the best of those ideas. So set an intention, and then I bet you can exceed it. We are going to have to let that assessment of, is this a good song, sort of fluctuate for a little while. Because if we take the aperture and narrow it so that it's very, very small, and very few ideas can get through there, we'll find that we're not very productive, and that can feel pretty tough. If the aperture is too large and too many ideas come out, then we find that in and of itself is a little bit tough, because the ideas we know aren't our best work. So we're constantly opening and closing that aperture to adjust to our own intuition. Now, you could also set intentions like, I want to co-write. Who should I co-write with? I'm going to identify a few people that I think have skills that are compatible with mine. Now, I often see people, if you're comfortable writing lyrics, sometimes we're comfortable with other people who write lyrics, and we tend to search out like-minded folks. But I think it's also good advice to go out and search for people who need what you do and can make space for you to do what you do very well within your collaboration. And then they also can shine doing what they do. So see if you can identify 1 or 2 people in the next few weeks who carry some skills that could be useful to you in finishing songs. I hope that you find the tools rise you to a new level of quality and of process, and certainly allow you to finish more songs. Don't forget that part of this process is not just finishing, but recording to the best of your ability and releasing, sharing your songs with others so you can see their impact and feel how they land. And then we go back and we write and record and release again. And through this process, over time, you begin to learn who you are as an artist and the unique fingerprint that you have on the songs that you're making. Thank you for taking this course and for finishing this course. I really hope it makes a big impact on your writing and your confidence as a writer. I would love to meet you And the way for me to meet you would most likely be at a physical retreat. It would be my pleasure to have you on a retreat where for 5 days we immerse ourselves in writing and sharing our songs with like-minded people. Connecting with like-minded writers and musicians is such an important part of being able to sustain a practice in this industry. It's challenging to be an island, writing our own material, releasing, recording, and nobody does it alone. And it would be absolutely wonderful to have you with us as a voice for songwriters, with other songwriters, and to see what benefits you as a songwriter in this community. Whether you are doing this as a career or as a hobby, I hope that you've gained a lot of tangible tools that you can apply to keep your process moving forward and just have more joy in songwriting every day in your life. Thank you for spending your time with me, and thank you for letting me into your process.